Right, folks, I did intend to get straight down to business today because it's a bit of a long episode, this one, but I can't skip over this little incident. And it is a minor incident, but it could be a sign of things to come. So it's worth sort of confronting here a little bit. So I was having a chat with the missus the other day about the potential conflict between the nature of this podcast and this new foundation I'm involved in. Because this whole cancel culture is going crazy at the moment. You know, you've got people's old tweets and jokes and videos are being resurrected to try and destroy their careers with accusations of racism, sexism, homophobia, what have you. You know, people like Jenna Marbles, she sort of famously quit YouTube this week, and then, you know, the Dixie Chicks, they've had to change the name to The Chicks because the word Dixie is supposedly, you know, has offensive connotations or whatever. Now, I'm not as high profile as those people, obviously, but I am in an industry which is sort of super sensitive. Like, the mental health sector is like the capital of liberal NPC, trigger warning, oh lordy me, how offensive culture. So there's every chance that at some point, particularly if this foundation gets off the ground, gains some traction, that somebody's going to make the connection between me, the guy that's doing this podcast, and me, the guy that's running this foundation, and, you know, make the accusation that I shouldn't be running any such foundation, that I need to resign or whatever. In fact, a perfect example of how this cancel culture sort of creeping in and affecting regular people is just recently again, there's a guy called Joe Schilling runs a pizza place over in Illinois called Saint Giuseppe's Heavenly Pizza. Now, he set up this sort of charity drive called FTP, for Feed the Police, sort of a play on the famous Ice-T song, I think it is, Fuck the Police, where he's donating pizza to the local police department. The point being to show some local business support to the police at a time when they're being sort of vilified by the media. And then he was planning on expanding the programme to include an initiative where they'd have the cops actually delivering pizza into low-income communities, the purpose of which being to sort of like build rapport and relationships between the local police department and cities, towns, areas where incidents of crime tend to be higher. Now, in light of everything that's going on with the whole George Floyd protests, quote-unquote, I say quote-unquote because I'm not entirely sure what smashing up and looting local businesses has to do with protesting, nor how it's supposed to help the situation. But anyway, you'd think with all the tensions going on between the police and the public at the moment that a charity drive to sort of bring the two sides together would be a good thing. Well, anyway, this Joe Schilling goes on the Gavin McInnes show. So Gavin McInnes, people don't know, he's a conservative commentator, one of the founders of Vice magazine, and also the founder more recently of the American patriot group, the Proud Boys, which the media insists on referring to as a right-wing hate group, despite having like numerous black and Jewish and gay members. The explanation for that, by the way, because it doesn't suit the narrative, is it's called multiracial white supremacy. Of course it is. Talk about abandoning Occam's razor. Anyway, so he does an interview on Gavin McInnes' show to try and promote this charity drive. So somebody sees this, disapproves of him talking to Gavin McInnes, and then complains to the police department. The programme gets immediately shut down, just for talking to the wrong person, right? So he's got a charity drive to try and bring the police and the community together. He talks to the wrong person and it all gets shut down, right? So that's a perfect example for me of a regular person becoming a sort of victim of cancel culture just for talking to the wrong person, yeah? Which, let's face it, I'm certainly at risk of here. Right, so anyway, we're having this conversation sort of based on all this, and it was like, what would you do if that happened to you? Like, you're being accused of speaking to the wrong person, or you've said the wrong thing, and people are like, you need to apologise or resign from the foundation. What would you do in that situation? And I said, very simple, I'd say no. Right, I'm not apologising, I'm not resigning, I'm not going anywhere. And the people around me can either show some backbone and stand by me, or they can fold like cowards, but I ain't going anywhere, right? I will fucking burn everything to the ground before I make any sort of pandering, insincere apologies to anybody, okay? And I can say that so firmly because everything I say on this podcast, I mean it, okay? And I don't just mean it at the time I say it, I make sure I still mean it when I reflect on it during the editing process later on. And I have occasionally had to sort of cut out the odd misworded sentence in the past, not because I didn't stand by the fundamental point that I was trying to make, but because I didn't put it across in a way that sort of adequately or accurately represented my position. So I'm very careful about what I do here, right? I don't just blurt shit out. And when I say something I know might get me in trouble, I make sure that I'm 100% sure about it. Anyway, it's funny we had this chat, right? Because not 24 hours later, I get an email from YouTube saying that they've age-restricted the interview I did with Tom O'Carroll, the paedophile. I'm thinking, oh, fucking hell, here we go. But, like, fine, whatever. You know, they've age-restricted it, right? To their credit, they haven't banned it. They haven't banned comments on it. It's just an age restriction, so fine. And again, whatever. YouTube, private company, do whatever the fuck they want for all I care. Anyway, so following day, I go on the Daily Mail website, which I'm not a regular on the Daily Mail, but I do like their sort of the graphs and stuff, their coverage of the COVID-19. So I've sort of morbidly been using the Daily Mail as my news source to sort of keep up to date on the daily death toll. So anyway, I go on there and I see a screen grab. It's on the homepage, the front page. I see a screen grab from my interview with Tom O'Carroll. And above it, the headline, outrage as paedophiles rebrand themselves as minor attracted persons in chilling online propaganda drive. Okay, so just think about that from my perspective a minute, right? A screenshot from this is all I see, the screenshot from my interview with Tom, and then that headline, outrage as paedophiles rebrand themselves as minor attracted persons in chilling online propaganda drive. And you know what? After what I was talking to Leanne about, did my ass drop? Did I get nervous? Nope. I felt nothing. Fuck all. Because like I've just said, I know what I've said in all these recorded interviews. I stand by everything I've said. So I don't care what I'm going to find in this article or what I'm going to be accused of. Now, luckily, click on the article. It turns out it's actually just your sort of typical Daily Mail shoddy opinion piece, like conflating loads of different aspects of how paedophiles are apparently using the internet and social media to try and gain acceptance for their proclivities. But the quote about my conversation with Tom, it says, in one interview, quote unquote, which YouTube has refused to take down, O'Carroll, 75, argues that a sexual relationship between an adult and a child is as natural as a mother's relationship with a baby. Not so much interested in the latter part of that paragraph, but the interview with the quote marks around it, what's the implication there? That I invited him onto the podcast to promote having sex with children, that I'm somehow complicit in this so-called propaganda drive. And also, YouTube has refused to take the video down, so it's clearly them that tried reporting it. Anyway, like I've said, I don't care. I don't give a shit what the Daily Mail are trying to imply, right? My conscience is clear, okay? I've had emails from dozens of child sexual abuse victims over that interview, and it is a fucking interview, praising me and thanking me for doing it, right? Unanimous. I've had no victims of childhood sexual abuse saying I shouldn't have done that interview. You know who didn't like it? The fucking paedophiles. Anyway, all this is sort of suffice to say that I'm toying with the idea of ditching YouTube and video altogether and scrapping all the social media channels like Facebook and Twitter and all that nonsense, and just uploading an audio podcast. Just one channel that I can easily migrate to a different platform if it gets shut down. Because the thing is, it's a lot of hassle editing the video podcast and then logging into Twitter and Facebook to promote the episode and creating like the channel art for the posts and all that nonsense. And it's like, if the channel's just going to get shut down or demonetized, I can't be arsed wasting my time with it. So I think that's the way we're going to go. I mean, we've already sort of stripped back the concept of this podcast, but we're going to be stripping it back even more now, and it's just going to be purely audio. I have got some more video episodes left to publish, but after that I think I'm done, which isn't too bad. I think about like 95% of the way this podcast is consumed is audio anyway, so it's my own daft fault for flogging this dead horse for 4 fucking years anyway. Anyway, today's episode. So, this is probably the most requested conversation I've ever had. I've rabbited on about my past as a driver and a chaperone in the sex industry for years now. And for years, people have said I should do an interview with one of the girls I've worked with. Well, funnily enough, not many of the girls are too keen on outing themselves on a podcast that thousands of people listen to. So it took a while, but finally got somebody. So it's probably going to be the briefest introduction ever. Not quite sure how much I can reveal. Her name's Elise. She's in her 20s and we're good mates. And that's pretty much as I'm able to tell you. Again, this isn't a video episode, by the way. No shit, Sherlock. But also, the audio was a little bit dodgy in places. So basically, at the time of us recording this, she was staying with her aunt, who she's like super close with, who lives over in France. So we did this via video call, but she's on this fucking old, like, Windows 98 laptop with these dodgy old headphones with, like, a mouthpiece on that, well, actually, that sounded fine at the time, but in the recording, whenever we're, like, talking or laughing at the same time, there's some sort of, like, feedback loop that creates, like, an echo. Sort of like you can hear me coming out of her headphones or her coming out of mine or whatever. I don't know what's going on, but it doesn't sound the best. It's not terrible or anything, but it's slightly annoying. Like I say, but it's only when we're sort of talking at the same time. The rest of the time it sounds fine, but you have to put up with it because there's nothing I can do about it. I've tried tweaking it, I can't fix it. Also, when we recorded this episode, Elise was sort of she was out of the game. She'd been out of the game for a couple of years, but she's kind of flirting with getting back into it again, very distantly. Like, she was taking on private clients for, like, text messaging and picture messaging and things like that. So this is primarily a conversation reflecting on the industry because she'd been out of it for a while. But since recording this interview, she's now delved back into it head first. So if you've got any other questions at the end of this episode, you think I've missed anything out, again, I'm talking to the folks on Patreon here, patreon.com/renegadeape. Send your questions in and we'll try and arrange a follow-up and talk about what the industry's like now. Anyway, enough yapping. Let's talk about the game. Right, folks, this is going to be a fucking interesting one today. And it's going to be quite a cathartic one for me because you know by now, after listening to this podcast for a while, that it's always been sort of these fucking clinicians and psychology experts and all that lot, and it's always been sort of a bit too formal for me, and so I've never felt like I could properly relax having a conversation with somebody, and so I've gone out of my way today to arrange a conversation where I'm going to feel completely at ease with a person because I know this person well, and I'd say that the topic we're going to be discussing today is sort of a bit of an area of expertise of mine. I've talked a lot about it on the podcast before, but never really gone into it in this kind of depth before. So today I'm joined by a girl called Elise, who I know from back working as a driver for the escort agency, and Elise used to be an escort. So, well, welcome to the podcast, Elise.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Right, so like I've said, we're just going to sort of go with the flow today and just cover a shitload of ground. And because ever since I've mentioned doing this job, people keep emailing me saying, do an episode on it, get one of the girls on or whatever. And so we've got a lot of ground to cover. Okay. So I don't really know where to start. I think we've got to keep you anonymous. And so I need to give people an idea of sort of what you look like to give them a picture. So I would describe you as got very dark hair. You've got like, I've always thought you were sort of Armenian or like Hispanic features or something like that. Very dark hair, long hair, very pretty, slim, big boobs, just a very attractive looking girl, but with, imagine like an Armenian type look. Is that right?
Thanks, Danny.
Well, the thing is, I remember one of the early things that me and you had in common was the fact that we found out we were both adopted.
Yeah.
When we were young.
Yeah.
And so when you told me that, I think I was like, right, fucking latch onto you.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit of a unique experience.
Yeah.
But didn't you do like the 23andMe thing to try and find out your heritage?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I was thinking about it,
Right.
but later on in my life, probably only a couple of years ago now, I did find out my heritage, and yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a mixture, really.
Go
I
on.
wouldn't say quite Armenian, but I've got the whole sort of like grandparents were Jewish, sort of Eastern European
There we
kind
go.
of thing. So that's where it comes from.
Right, okay. So I'm going to start right back at that.
Yeah.
Because I think that the typical trope of a girl who ends up in the sex industry is sort of, broken girl with a broken, troubled background or whatever. And, in some cases it's true, some cases it's not.
Yeah.
But let's start with yours and start off with that adoption thing.
Yeah.
Because I think, for me, being adopted has sort of fucked me up a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
And made me very sort of guarded and suspicious of people. And I think it was sort of ending up in the escorting industry with a bunch of other people that have got these weird background stories and stuff. That sort of made me feel at home there.
Yeah.
Whereas I struggle out in the real world with what sometimes called civilians in the civilian world.
Of course, I feel exactly the same. I think that you just become a hardened person coming from a background like we've come from, being adopted and everything. I think that it makes you feel sort of like you're on your own in the world. You don't really have what everybody else sort of has, that perfect family, mum, dad. Even if the mum and dad are split up, at least you fucking know who your mum and dad are. Do you know what I mean? Like, not, I think I've always felt very alone. But like you say, coming into the industry, I would say maybe 9.5 out of 10 of the girls had, family issues, daddy issues, mummy issues, or, that kind of thing. So we did relate.
Right, so you would say then, from your experience, that most of the girls that get involved, and we're talking about escorting in particular, because there's different, there's parlours, there's escorting, there's street girls, and then there's like porn and things like that.
Yeah.
But just as far as sort of escorting is concerned, would you say then, you'd agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
The idea that most of them are a bit fucked up?
100%.
Okay, so being adopted, do you remember finding out that you was adopted, being told it? How old was you?
Oh, I think I was probably about 7 or 8, maybe. And I have siblings, but they are biologically my parents. So my adopted parents, I call them mum and dad because that's all I've ever known. I was very young when I was adopted. But they have biological children, and I'm the odd one out. I'm the adopted one. So one of my older siblings said it in a bit of a nasty way. Haha, your mum's not even my mum's just took you because your mum didn't want you. That kind of thing. Like they got me off the shelf in the shop.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I was like, what? Like, what's this about? Like, so obviously I approached my parents, and my mum had to sit me down and sort of say, look, yeah, we got you. You weren't in my tummy, sort of thing. We did get you. Not quite from the shop, but like
How old was you when you was adopted?
I was 2.5.
Oh, was you?
Yeah.
I was adopted at 6 weeks.
Yeah,
So I've got no memory. And you've got no memory of anything before?
No, I remember little bits of my childhood because I used to go and visit like my foster parents and stuff. I was in foster care from being 3 weeks old. My mum abandoned me. She left me in, I think, a social services department, but nobody knew who I was. I was just this baby in a
Fuck, I didn't know
in
that.
a pram. Yeah. Well, I've only found out the full backstory recently, like I say, because I found members of family and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's basically what happened, and they had to track my mum down. I was in the fucking paper and all sorts of, always, top celebrity.
I don't think you've ever told me
at 3
this.
weeks old, yeah. So there was like this big search, who's this baby? They found my mum, and she was like, no, I don't want her. Can have her, sort of thing. So I went into emergency foster care, and my parents now, who I call mum and dad, they went through a long process of adopting me. I think might be a bit different. I mean, we're not that mad. You're not that much older than me, Daddy, but
About a decade.
but maybe it was a bit different. So it was quite a lengthy process. I think they wanted to adopt me as a baby, but they had to go to all these parenting classes, and even though they already had kids, they had to do all this stuff enabling them, to actually finally have me in their home. So it's quite a long process. So that's why it took till I was about 2.5 to actually go to my forever home.
So have you met your mum? I don't like using that word, me.
No, it's not. It's not a good word, is it? My biological mum, no. I haven't met her.
I just say the person who had me.
Yeah. No, I've not met her, Like, I mean, I did try to sort of strike up a relationship. What I did was I found one of my siblings through social media, and she still lives with my mum. My mum kept her.
How old is she?
She's 2 years older than me.
What?
Yeah, so
Older?
yeah, so she's a bit older than me, but then I spoke to him. I've only ever spoke to my biological mum once on the phone, and she sort of like cracked up, and she doesn't want to speak to me. She doesn't want to meet me, basically. I don't know. She's a bit of a Fruit Loop. Like, she's a bit. I think she holds me accountable for a lot of the reason why. She says, well, they've actually said to me, they were quite mean to me. They told me that I reminded them of my biological father, and they didn't want to meet me and stuff like that. And of course, I don't know my biological father either. So I thought, like, how could it be like him? Like, I don't know the guy. I know I've heard he was a nasty man. So I think, I don't know, maybe it's the way that I look. I don't know, but for that reason, no, I've never met her.
When did this happen?
This was about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. So this is sort of after all.
After, yeah, the whole escorting and everything like that.
Because the thing I'm sort of building up to is eventually this decision to go, fuck it, I'm going to get into escorting. And I'm trying to sort of explore that aspect of it. So as a teenager, did you have any curiosity about, because you knew from 7? I didn't care. I remember being upset about it.
Yeah.
I got told twice. I got told when I was like 3 and then must have forgotten about it. And then it came up in conversation when I was 7. I was fucking devastated and you had to tell me all over again.
Oh, no.
So I remember I was sort of devastated about it, but I've never had any sort of curiosity about meeting anybody. And I attribute that to the fact that my relationship with my parents was spot on. Like, I couldn't have asked, to have been bought by better people.
Yeah, from the shop.
From the shop. But what was your experience? And I'm sort of hinting at something here because I remember a couple of things you've told me about it not being so great.
It wasn't. I've always felt like the black sheep. Like you've said, what I look like. The whole sort of looking a bit Armenian, things like that. I stick out like a sore fucking thumb with my family.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit weird not having anybody that you look like. When you've got friends that look the spitting image of the brother and sister, and I never had that. So I thought, I wonder what, who I look like. Do I look like my mum? Do I look like my biological dad? Do I look like my biological sister? Like, it was like that. And I think as well as that, I am, very curious person. I do like to delve into. I didn't ever think that it was going to be like this complete love story where I was going to find this family who were going to welcome me back with open arms.
I think a lot of adopted kids do that.
A lot of adopted kids do think that, but I didn't. I knew it wasn't a nice story. I was aware that it was going to be a bit fucked up.
So you didn't know about the whole being dumped by social services ending up in the paper. You didn't know about that initially.
I did know about that, but I didn't know like to the extent of it. Like, so I did know that my mum dumped me because there was a newspaper clipping that was in my you get all these folders from social services and shit like that. So I used to often find them and have a read through them, maybe once every couple of years or something. Yeah. And have a bit of a reflection on it. And I used to get upset when I used to read it because it wasn't nice things to read. It was like my mum didn't want me and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear that.
No.
But I do think it did have an effect on it. And I think more than thinking, what, I go and find these people that I'm going to have so many similarities with, I sort of I think, wanted to challenge him as if to say, why the fuck did you do this to me? What was it?
See, I know another girl that I've maintained a friendship with, funnily enough, who was adopted as well.
Yeah.
And she had a similar experience of, she was adopted at quite a young age, found out it was under really fucked up circumstances. But then when she went back to find her parents and establish a relationship with them, they were fucking horrible to her.
Yeah.
And her dad, when she met him, halfway through the conversation, it got heated for some reason, but I always remember her saying that he said to her, "I'm fucking ashamed, like you've come out of me," or something like that.
God.
And I imagine that's got to be... You see, my story is the woman who gave birth to me was like about 15 or something, and then the guy was in his mid-20s. It's a bit of a fucked up situation going on there. But I don't actually know for sure the story, because when my mum gave me all the papers and stuff when I was like 14, I just burnt them.
Yeah, right.
And I never read them.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if I sort of did myself a favour in that sense by not knowing.
Yeah.
I was hinting at something else when I was asking you that, though, and
Right.
say there might be plenty of times we're going to have to cut things out during this conversation, but in particular, you told me about an ashtray incident as a kid.
I can't remember. Can you elaborate a bit?
Yeah, I recall you telling me that your relationship with your adoptive parents, with your mum in particular, at one point wasn't great.
Oh, no.
And
Yeah.
and that when you were young, she threw an ashtray at you and hit you in the bridge of the nose with it or something like that.
No, what it was, I remember, it wasn't quite an ashtray. It was a wooden, you remember those wooden jigsaws?
Yeah.
Like kids used to put like the little pieces in.
Right.
So they were quite thick. She sort of frisbeed it at me, and it hit me in my gums, like
Oh, right. I've really
just
thought that story up.
under my nose. You've made it sound so much better. Only joking. No, so yeah, and it split all my gums open, and I had to stay off school and stuff like that. She was quite violent to me, my mum, my adopted mum.
Was she violent towards the other kids?
No.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
See, that's one thing I've always remembered from your story is, you know, and I feel sort of a bit uncomfortable maybe like disparaging your mum now, like if you've got a good relationship with her, but
Yeah.
I just think if you were going to adopt a kid, it'd be the opposite. You'd be extra careful and extra sort of affectionate towards that child, and not...
You'd think so.
It just strikes me as weird to go out, especially because you've said it's so much fucking red tape involved in becoming an adoptive parent, and then when you get the kid...
Yeah.
To not treat them well.
Yeah. I think that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, when I think back, I can't remember being absolutely a horrific child. I used to have a bit of a shit relationship with my older siblings, and they used to beat me up and stuff like that. I remember one incident where one of my older siblings bit me on my arm, like, and really bruised me. Do you know what I mean? So I went and told my mum, and she said, like, you know, that I'd done it to myself. And obviously I was never believed. Like, you know, it was like, they thought I was fucked up. They thought I was doing things for attention, I think. And so, yeah, so that's why I used to get the shit end of the stick. Really, I think. Like, my siblings would say, oh, she's just sworn. She's sworn at us, she's called us a bitch. And I'd get a fucking bar of soap in my mouth. But I'd never done it. So... yeah, it was a bit shit.
Right, so there we go. We've got a box tick there for a fucked up childhood.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Another element of it is going to be sort of the development of sexuality.
Yeah.
So, you know, for most people, that's going to start in your early teens.
Yeah.
Flirting, kissing, whatever, and it escalates from there. I think one suspicion that a lot of people have, one accusation that's made a lot with girls in the sex industry, is that they were abused as kids. Anything like that?
No,
for you personally?
not for me personally. Not any kind of sexual abuse. Definitely not. I mean, when it comes to when I started having sex, I was probably a bit...
Which was when?
I was about 14.
Right.
13, 14, but I only sort of did it because my friends had already done it, so I thought, shit, I need to jump on this bandwagon, I'm so uncool.
Right, so you weren't like overtly sexual as a teenager?
No, not at all. I sort of just followed the crowd on that one. I thought, everybody else seems to be doing it, like, you know, I'm gonna do it, you know, I want to be part of this cool club kind of thing. So that's what it was with me. So I don't think I started at, like I say, I was one of the later ones to sort of lose my virginity.
You did better than me. I was a fucking pathetic loser because I was 16.
Oh, fuck.
A week after I was 16, but that was the ultimate failure. Yeah. But when you first started having sex, let's say the first couple of years as a teenager, did you enjoy it? Did you get into it? Or was,
No.
again, for me, it was a bit the same. It was
No,
like,
it was just like you were doing it to say that you've done it.
right. So then, where for you do you think is a sort of a waypoint where sexuality started to become... I'm thinking that sexuality needs to become a big enough part of your life before you become an escort.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's gonna just choose to become an escort when they've got no sort of overt sexuality about them.
No. So when I was younger, obviously because I had a bit of this fucked up home life going on, I wasn't in a lot. I was out with my friends a lot. I used to hang around with older crowds, stuff like that. So I used to drink a lot. I used to take drugs.
Do you know why you did that? Was that just part of the crowd again?
Yeah, part of the crowd, and it was fun. I'm not gonna lie,
Right.
I had a lot of fucking fun.
Right.
But because I was doing these things, I was having a lot of sex with a lot of people. I didn't value sex. I wasn't having sex with a boyfriend. I was having sex with anyone that gave me a bit of attention, I think. So, I probably racked up a bit of a body count in my early teens. Like,
Do you know what your body count was? Let's say by the time you were 20, maybe.
I mean, I still walk past people if I go back to the area that I grew up in, and I'll walk past him. Hiya, mate, you all right? And I'll think 10 minutes later, I shagged it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think, oh gosh, like.
Are we talking? It's a bit arbitrary, but are we talking tens? Or have we hit 100 by the time we're 20?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, really?
I'd say so. At least 100.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I valued myself that much. It wasn't really I don't know. Maybe it was value because the reason why I think I used to do it was because I wanted the attention. I wanted to feel like someone liked me. I didn't think any of my fucking family liked me.
Right. So, well, that's pretty interesting as well. So, by the time you become a teenager, what was the relationship with your parents and your family like then? Was it still
Shit,
it got worse?
arguments. Yeah, well, I mean, it probably got better because I wasn't around. That's what I mean. I was out all the time.
Right.
Any given opportunity, like I used to wag school. I hardly went to school and stuff like that. Like I was just with my friends all the time. Like I say, drinking, taking drugs, having fucking fun, and then going home, going to bed, treating it a bit like a hotel. Really,
Right.
it was. It wasn't like it wasn't much fun at home.
When did you start enjoying sex? I'm talking about not when it became sort of completely guilt-free or anything like that. I just mean from a physical standpoint. So even if you were still just getting it for attention, when did it start to become like, oh, it's pretty fucking good, this?
I think when I got a boyfriend that I actually liked, I was with someone from being probably about 17, 18. Met him in college. So obviously we'd have sex and stuff like that, and I enjoyed it. But I think it's because I genuinely really liked him. Like I thought I loved him at the time. I probably didn't, thinking back now, but I thought I was like madly in love. So obviously when you've got that kind of connection with someone, I think that's when you really, really enjoy sex. Personally.
Here we go. Something to latch onto here. So you mentioned college then.
Yeah.
So going to college, you're gonna be developing some sort of vision for the future. Here's what I want to be when I grow up or whatever.
Yeah.
What was that for you? What did you want to do?
Sociology, psychology. I wanted to go down that route because I think, like I say, like from a bit of a troubled upbringing, I wanted to understand people a lot more, why people choose to do certain things. So that's what I wanted to go into. But then when I started college and I was going to these lessons of sociology, I was, again, the black sheep. All the statistics that were being taught to me, single parent families, blah, 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 your kids are all going to commit crime. I thought, I am part of what you're telling me is the problem in society, so I couldn't stick it out, unfortunately.
Right, okay, so we need to establish that here. So you've got 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl.
Yeah.
When did you have your first child?
15.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right, fucking hell.
Rewind. Yeah, we need to step back.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so got pregnant at 15 with a boyfriend or with...
I thought it was my boyfriend, but he wasn't really. If I think about it, he was an older guy. Yeah. This is probably another thing. He was about 8 years older than me, so it was probably a bit weird. He was in his 20s. Obviously, I think that I wanted out from my home environment, and I always thought, oh yeah, older guys have got money, older guys have got stability, older guys gonna look after me. So I met this older guy. He was a drug dealer, and so I thought that was
We'd tick another
tick
box.
another box. I thought it was like ultra cool, blah blah blah.
It is when you're a teenager though, drug dealers are the coolest fucking people
Yeah,
in
of
the world
course
though.
they are.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, fucking hell, like, could you ask for much more? Like, out of a man. Yeah, so that's what it was. So I met him, and yeah, obviously within a few months, fell pregnant really quick. He didn't want the baby, obviously, I think because it was all a big secret. I was 15, he was 8 years older than me or whatever. So it was a massive secret. His mum actually knew who I was, but she thought I was called something else. She thought I was older than what I was. He'd lied to a lot of people about me, basically, because obviously he was worried about the age thing. So of course when I found out I was pregnant, he didn't want me to have the baby. He told me, you better get rid of the baby. I don't want anything to do with it. I didn't get rid of my child.
Why?
And
did you think about it?
I didn't even think about it.
Right.
At the time, I did have a friend that was pregnant as well. She was slightly older than me, so I think that did sort of make a bit of a difference. I thought, well, she's having a baby, so I can't. I'm going to have a baby as well. If she can do it, I can do it. So it didn't even cross my mind to get rid of the baby. I went and got a job and stuff when I was pregnant, to sort of fund things, baby stuff. And then I lived with my parents whilst I was pregnant, and then I sort of thought of this as, well, I'm having my own family now, whether it's just me and this kid. It's a family unit, so I can get away from my family unit, sort of thing.
And did he have anything to do with?
No, not until she was a few weeks old, first of all, but then no, contact was not great. Now they have a relationship, but it did take a good, I'd say, 5 years.
Right, okay, so here's what we've got so far. Teenage pregnancy, you're sort of going it alone.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's not really having that much to do with it.
Yeah.
And when you say he was a drug dealer as well, is he one of these drug dealers that's fucking raking it in, like plenty of money? Or is he a bit of like
just a street dealer, fucking, the help, basically. not the big, not Pablo Escobar himself.
Right, so he wasn't... Was he offering any financial support to you?
No.
Right. So then, you see, we're fucking ticking all... People are listening like, this is exactly how I was expecting this to go so far. So, where did we get to... Because when I met you, we met in 2013.
Yeah.
I think was you 23 then? 22, something like that?
Oh my God, like, now I've got to do a bit of maths. Yeah, I was.
So, how long had you been... You weren't fresh to it when I met you. So, how long had you been doing it for?
I'd been working, escorting since I was 21.
Right, so there we go. How does that happen? Where do you go? Was there a gateway drug? Do you start off stripping?
No.
No.
I did the opposite. I got straight into escorting, and then, I mean, I will probably go back to this, but I got straight into escorting, and then after I wanted to break away from escorting, I went to dancing. There's no fucking money in it. But no, I went straight to escorting.
So how did that happen? When does escorting come on your radar? Do you remember the day?
What? Yeah, I do remember the day. It's so fucking mad. I remember it very, very well. So basically, I was just like thinking, I was working a lot. I was working full time. I had, my daughter, who at this point in time is, getting older. Life's expensive. I had a house, I had bills. I felt like I'd always worked since I was pregnant, at a young age, like I say, and I'd worked throughout my daughter's, childhood. I felt like I'd missed a whole childhood basically because I'd always had this full-time job. She was in nursery, childcare, and then obviously school from like when she was like 4 months old. And I thought, what the fuck, like I'm working and then you know, I'm just about making ends
Do you remember
meet.
what sort of jobs you were doing?
Retail.
Right.
Retail jobs. So, you know, I wasn't really I wasn't working my way up to anything. And I just thought, me and my friend actually, we were having a bit of a joke about it, like, oh, should we do it? Should we do it? I don't even know why it popped into our heads. Like, I don't even know. But I applied anyway that night after we'd spoke about it. And
do you remember? I don't want to name the agency, but do you remember what agency it was?
yeah,
Right. Okay. Was it? Because again, this where we met. I would argue that, especially outside of London, there's different levels to it. There's different levels of agencies.
yeah,
Where we met at that agency was that was top tier
yeah,
for Manchester.
yeah.
Not quite for London.
No.
What level are we starting out with the agency that you got started in? Are we talking grotty?
No, it was high class.
Right.
It was high class, and I think that influenced my decision to start escorting because I applied to this website. They got back to me straight away. What I had to do was fill out my statistics, how big are my tits, how tall am I, you know, send a few pictures in. Obviously, they got back to me straight away, called me, really nice lady on the phone. They even said to me, we'll send a driver. Wasn't you, unfortunately, Danny. We'll send a driver to come and pick you up and bring you to your interview. So it was very professional. So it fucking really sold it to me. So this driver's come and pick me up in a nice car. He's actually got one of the working girls in the car, in the front of the car. And I don't know if you'll remember her. She was called Alex.
Oh, hang on. So the agency you're talking about is the same one we met at.
Yeah,
that was your first.
that was my first agency.
Right,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Well, you know why they do that, don't you?
Yeah, well...
Why do you know why they get the driver to pick the girl up, as well as it appearing professional? Why they get the driver to pick the girl up, and if they can, have a girl in the car?
Just makes it look...
Selling
it. It's selling you a dream.
Yeah, especially if you've got let's make up a name for her, Karen, who used to run that place.
Yeah.
She'd always make sure if I was going picking up a girl, she would make sure that it wasn't one of the pissy moany girls that was in the car, because you don't want to put the new girls off.
Well, of course. This girl that was in the car, I got close to her after a bit. She was so glamorous. She had the big lips.
What's she called?
She was called Alex. She had poker straight black hair. She had the tan. She had the lips. She had the fake tits.
Was she there when I was there? Yeah.
I think she left.
Well,
she might be in prison now. She was fucking great. I loved her to bits. I don't know. I think she might have left when you came. She had a few troubles. But she was great. But yeah, so she was dead nice to me when I got in the car. She was very Mancunian, even more so than me.
Which driver was it as well?
It was Michael, the lovely Michael. And Michael is a man that's very, very timid, very shy. Well, not shy, very softly spoken. You would trust Michael with your life. He wouldn't harm a fucking fly.
Yeah.
And so this is the person that's picked me up to take me to my interview. So when I've gone to my interview, I've got this girl in the car. She's saying, oh, you'll love it. You know, you'll make loads of money. You're going to smash it. You know, this Mancunian girl, they're down to earth. Not bitchy, what I expected it to be like.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gone to my interview. And when I've turned up, it's a gated property. This massive gated
like a mansion,
property.
Isn't it?
It's a mansion. Yeah. I'm thinking, fucking hell, like, what's this?
Yeah, it definitely does the job of selling the life to you.
You sold an absolute dream, like, you know. So I've gone and I've met the woman who runs the agency's husband. Actually interviewed me. Can't remember his name. He was a bit irrelevant, if you remember, wasn't he? He wasn't...
James. I don't know if that rings a bell.
Yes. Yeah, but he interviewed me, which, you know, again, he was a really nice, softly spoken man. I think he was Irish or Scottish or something like that. And, you know, he was just really lovely to me, and he went through it, and he was like, you do know that, you know, it can contain sex. Some people do ask you for sex.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So I have picked up a few girls in the past that are naive enough to think that they're seriously just going for dinner dates. Yeah. Is that what you thought it was? No,
I knew. I don't know how I knew, but I did. I mean, I think I've watched a lot of documentaries or something before I've actually, you know, gone to the agency. I was quite interested in all, like, prostitution and things like that. I've always wondered, like, what it was like, you know, for girls and, you know, things like that. So I think, you know, I wasn't naive to it at all. I knew what it was going to be.
Was any of it sort of sexuality driven?
No.
Was it purely money?
Money. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'd say for at least maybe 95% of the girls, it's a financial decision. There are the occasional ones.
Oh God, yeah, you do get some girls that say that they love it, but I think it was money, but at the same time, I actually did think back to my past, like I said, and I thought, got this body count anyway. I may as well get paid to do the things that I would do anyway if I was pissed. Do you know what I mean?
Surely one of the things when you're sat there thinking about whether or not to do this, you have to surely take into consideration that as well as it being rich guys that can afford to pay for it and guys that are just, overly sexed or whatever need to pay for it.
Yeah.
There's guys that need to pay for it because they are horrendous looking.
Yeah.
The behaviour's all fucked up. Did that cross your mind when you're thinking about getting into it? Because you're going to meet guys that are dickheads, guys that are like big fat sweaty pigs, that sort of thing.
Well, no, to be honest, no, because I did, to an extent, I did think I was going to meet, like, people that weren't attractive and stuff like that, older guys, that kind of thing. But I didn't think it was going to be, because the agency is sold to you, so high class, and they actually tell you there's certain postcodes that we won't go to.
Yeah.
If you're in the middle of like what they class as a rough area, we won't send you. Bullshit, by the way. Get to that later. But they sell it like you're going to go to these really rich clients and you're going to get treated like a princess, basically. But I was aware that I was probably going to be with older men and it was going to be a bit weird in that way, and I was going to be with ugly people. But yeah, like I say, I did think that it was going to be very high class clientele, businessmen, that kind of thing.
So you've done your interview with, what do we call him, James?
Yeah.
Okay, you go home, spend some time thinking about it. Did you get straight on it with...
They actually give you a contract straight away. They tell you that you can go home to think about it, but they give you like a bit of an application form to fill out, like a written one as well, and you have to sign it, and they ask you to bring your ID with you. It's all dead legit.
It is, but I will say, have you worked for any other agencies after them?
I worked for a parlour after that.
You worked for parlour, well, we'll get into that. But I would say that is not standard procedure in the industry. It is very much like you turn up to some, like, say, gated fucking mansion. Michael turns up in his posh car.
Yeah.
And you go through, it's like there's an office in there with all the computers, they've got all the office staff.
Yeah.
You do a proper interview, you sign a contract.
Yeah.
That's not standard.
No.
Standard is, what is standard actually? You see, I've known agencies, especially ones that are run by guys, where the girl will turn up and it's like, take your clothes off, let me have a look, sort of thing. Sometimes they want a girl to perform.
Yeah, I've heard a few things like that.
They don't usually get away with that. With that one. But yeah, take your clothes off, turn around, let me have a look. That's a definite. But there's no like signing any fucking application forms or anything like that.
No.
So it really was. Yeah, you got in on the top floor.
Yeah, I did. And yeah, I think I did have a little think about it, but I did sign it all off there. Yeah, get me on your fucking books, like,
Do you remember your first day then?
Yeah.
So take us through it, because you're gonna wake up that day and it's like, shit, today's the day.
Yeah. Well, what you have to do is you have to what they call sign on. So that day I signed on. So you ring them up in the afternoon, and you tell them what time you can start taking appointments from. So I told them that I could start from, I'm making a guess here, but I'm guessing like tea time-ish, 6-ish, 7-ish, something like that. I asked for a driver because I didn't want to drive myself, because I just thought safety-wise it's better, I feel better someone picking me up and dropping me off from appointments. So I was so fucking scared though, I was, I mean, like I say, I've got this body count and all that lot, and I've done a lot of sexual things, but I thought, I'm scared, like, you hear about, every time you hear a woman 9 times out of 10, if you hear a woman's getting fucking murdered, she's a prostitute, do you know what I mean? So I thought, like, I was thinking about my safety, I was scared about my safety, I wasn't really scared about performing,
right?
I was scared about my safety, more than anything.
Okay, so paint a picture for us. Do you remember, like, what you wore?
Yeah, so this agency in particular, you had to dress, because it was high class, you had to dress high class, so you would have to wear a dress, you'd have to have stockings underneath, suspender, that kind of thing, you'd have to wear high heels, And I remember having like a little blazer that I used to wear as well. Because as well as that, if I was going into hotels and stuff, I'd throw them off, you know, the hotel staff off the scent that I was a prostitute. Well, I don't like to call myself a prostitute. I think there's different levels. So at this time, I was a high class escort. So I'd throw them off that scent by dressing like a businesswoman almost. There was some girls that used to take fucking briefcases out with them to go to jobs. You know, just to throw people off the scent, really. So yeah.
So, first job.
Oh my God.
Go on.
So the first job was already pre-booked, so I'd known that I was going to this particular person all day. So obviously I was shitting it. It was a regular, so that sort of put me at ease a bit more. And it was out of town, which was another good thing. I thought, well, I'm not going to know him. So obviously it was a bit of a long drive there, maybe an hour, something like that. So I went to the house and I was quite shocked, actually.
Was you like, how nervous are you walking up like any second thoughts? Are you proper like bricking it at this point?
No, I thought I haven't got a fucking choice, got to do it now, maybe. He's booked me, there's no way out, like I've got to do it.
You knock on the door.
Go
on.
Sorry, what I was going to say was, it was a shocker at first, because I'm expecting these businessmen, and I'm on a fucking council estate.
Yeah, well, I was going to sort of pick you up on that before, because when you're talking about like high-class escorting, that's as far as the agency, the way it operates, the rules that are in place, but it's not necessarily the clientele, is it?
No.
I would say, again, outside of London, I would say that the high-class escorting agency, where women are being sent out to businessmen for meals and conferences and all that shit, is a bit of a myth.
Yeah.
You maybe do it independently, because then you vet your own clients and just do it yourself. But I've never come across where, even at the best agencies, you are pulling up on council estates. You are going to like the fucking Midland in Manchester and going to like big mansions in like
Alderley Edge.
Yeah. But you do go to some shitholes as well.
You do, and like I say, my first job, shithole. I mean, but I'm not a judgmental person, you know. This guy had a nice car and they're driving that. I thought, you know, he's obviously got money, like, he lives on a council estate, but hey-ho. Like, you know, I've come from the slums, like, I'm not going to judge. So he opened the door.
Do you remember what he looks like?
Yes.
Right.
He was a little man. He was bald. I'd probably say he was like late 40s.
It's not a great start. Go on.
No, he was like, oh yeah, you're right, come in. So I'd give him a kiss on the cheek, acting dead posh, put the posh voice on. I was really, really scared. I remember I was like, my hands were so sweaty and stuff. Like when I'm like a bit nervous and stuff, I get sweaty hands. And I remember like even in the car, I remember just like my hands were so sweaty and clammy, and you know, I was feeling a bit like that. He asked me if I wanted a drink. I said yeah. I didn't drink it though. I had this thing all the years that I did it. There was no way that I was not being in control of that appointment. So I used to pretend that I was drinking. I would pretend that I was getting pissed, even if I was in some party house overnight. I'd be chucking my fucking drink down the back of the radiator. Oh yeah, thanks. Give me another.
Was he? Because you said he was a regular. Did he like sort of carry the conversation? Did he know you were new? Because that's the thing for a lot of guys. They want a new girl.
Yeah, that's why, of course. I mean, fucking hell. Like when you're new, you never get as many jobs than you will later on down the line, because guys can't wait to. It's like you're a virgin to them. Do you know what I mean? It's like that whole, oh, she's a virgin, and you're young as well. I was young. So them two as a combination, fresh meat, like they loved it.
Was there anything attractive about him, or was he just
one bit? No. He was. I mean, he didn't smell, which was great.
Right, that's a start.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, the scariest thing for a working girl, I think, is personal hygiene. I mean, their personal hygiene. So it was clean, and I thought, well, that's good enough. So I went upstairs with him, and I lay in the bed, and I think I just sort of like distracted myself. I thought about something else. I wasn't thinking of what was going on at that moment in time and what he was doing to me sexually.
Sorry, that language alone is sort of interesting, isn't it? That what he's doing to you.
Yeah.
It's very passive. You just lay there letting him get on with it.
Yeah.
Was it just, you know, because we'll cover some sort of the fucking extremes that go on, but was it just standard
Yeah,
sex?
yeah, bog standard. Like, I just couldn't even believe that people pay for this. Like,
Got nothing out of it?
no,
Didn't enjoy it?
no.
Did you feel repulsed at all doing it?
I did. I'm not gonna lie, I did afterwards, and that felt. You feel dirty. You feel like you need a scrub.
Right. So you get back in the car after the job, and how are you feeling?
I think I was a bit like. I was happy about the money. I was like, oh, and I was relieved I've got my first job out of the way, because the girls that I'd spoke to in the car previous to that appointment, the driver, they all assured me, sorry, at the time, once you get your first job out of the way, it's fine. It's like riding a bike, that kind of thing. Like, you're not gonna forget. Like, it's fine then. You've done it once. I do think now that, and I think you'll probably agree with me, Danny, that first appointment will either make you or break you.
Totally, yeah. I've said quite a lot that I've put a lot of girls off doing the job. Like, they get in the car and I'm just like, you are not fucking cut out for this.
You're not the kind of material, no.
But then the girls that maybe, I was going to say that show potential, but that makes it sound dead creepy, that like I'm like, oh, she's got potential, let her do it.
No, I know what you mean.
For me, it wasn't that. It's just, some girls, I'm just like, I don't get that same vibe that it's going to fuck her up. So it's like, fine, you're a grown-up, you do what you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, those first jobs can be interesting, where I've had plenty of girls get back in the car, sobbing their heart out, and they're just like, just fucking take me home.
Yeah.
And you'll never see him again.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen,
yeah,
they're in it.
Definitely, I agree.
So did you get any more jobs that night?
Do you know what? I actually can't remember.
Right.
And that's the mad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such a big part of my life, as sad as it sounds, that just sticks out. That's just a big, like, it really sticks out to me, that. So I can't even remember. But what I do remember is, I think I told you this last time I seen you. So what happens is you get the cash off the customer, but then you have to pay your driver, and you also have to pay agency fee for sort of booking that appointment for you. So you do that at the end of the night or whatever, or you sort of pay your driver's fee, how many jobs he's took you to, and you also pay however many appointments you've had, their fee to the agency. So I remember giving the money over, and then the next day I got a phone call. I think it was actually the boss, the big boss. She
Karen.
rang me. Yeah. She rang me and she basically told me, check your notes, the fake. And he'd paid me in some fake £20 notes.
Was this your first job?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell, so you got stitched straight away.
I got stitched up straight away.
Did she bollock you for that?
She didn't. She just said, I think because it was my first job, she sort of like pitied me a bit. So, which was a good thing, because she was like, right, this time we'll let you off, but in the future, take one of them pens out with you, check your notes, do you know what I mean? Which obviously made sense, like, of course. You don't think, but obviously you're so vulnerable, aren't you? And I think, obviously, he got in more trouble than I did, because he was a regular customer.
Right.
So, it was my first night, it was my first ever appointment, so definitely he got in more trouble. Put it this way, I didn't ever see him again. So don't know whether he got chucked off the books or whether he was pissed off because I got him found out.
I'm just going to throw this in there just to give a bit of context for people. So the fees might have gone up now. It's been a few years. It's been like nearly half a fucking decade since I've been out of the game.
Man.
It was it like $1.50 an hour?
Depends, doesn't it?
Did they do that different desk thing there for a while as well?
What it is you've got your standard girls, which this is a bit tight as well. So you've got your bog standard girls, what they class as bog standard anyway, and then you've got the elite girls, which are a little bit extra because they're whatever, they've got something more to offer than the other girls. Mm-hmm. But you don't choose that; the agency chooses it for you.
Yeah.
So at this time, I was a bog standard girl.
Right.
I did move it up to elite.
Oh, did you get an upgrade?
Yeah, I got upgraded. The only time in my whole life I've ever had a fucking promotion was for shagging, which I'm proud of.
So, do you remember what the fees were for a standard?
120.
Oh, was it?
An hour.
Right.
And 140 if you were elite.
Right. God. So, out of that, you're paying £20 for the driver
Yeah.
for the first hour.
Yeah.
And then it was £10 an hour after. I think it went up to 15 then after that, didn't it?
It did.
It was a great job. You get paid fucking £10-15 an hour for sitting on your ass in a car park.
In McDonald's, scranning mozzarella sticks.
So out of your 120
Yeah.
as a bog standard girl,
Yeah.
fucking 20 in my pocket straight away, you're left with 100, but then you've got the agency to pay. What did you pay them?
I think it was 40 or 45.
Right, so you're left with 55 or 60 quid.
Yeah, £55 an hour I used to get afterwards.
Again, just to provide context, so I met you doing that in 2014. When I first worked for an agency was in 2008.
Yeah.
And it was one of the big 3 agencies in Manchester. It was before the internet. It was back when websites used to cost thousands to put out.
Yeah.
And so, like now, there's a fucking billion agencies and everyone's doing it independently. But back then, you had to be part of an agency.
Yeah.
And it cost a lot. So there was only 3 big places in Manchester that did it. And they had 3 desks. And I think the tiers were something like, sort of what we're talking about, it's sort of postcode related. If a guy rings up on his mobile and he's like, yeah, I got any girls? It's right, this twat's on the lower tier. And then if you rang up from the Midland and it's, oh, hello.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this motherfucker's on the upper tier.
Yeah.
And the prices were 190, 220 and 275 an hour.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2008. So back then girls are making 275.
Yeah.
And the driver's fee was only £15 for the first hour.
Yeah.
And then it was 50 to the agency, I think. So there you're looking at a girl is bagging, back then girls are bagging £200, £210 an hour. By the time we're working together, it's down to 50, 55 quid.
Yeah. Shocking.
But how did you feel about it?
At the time, I thought it was easy cash. Like I say, like, you know, I was there for an hour, I was getting 55 quid an hour. I thought that was great. At the time, being young, I thought that was, you know, absolutely, I thought I was smashing it.
So now that that's happening, you're into it, you've become an escort, and you're working on a regular basis. How many days a week were you working?
You had to do like a minimum of like 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
So you could choose what nights. Obviously the busier nights were sort of Saturday nights. We'd open longer, so we'd have to work till like 4 o'clock in the morning then. But weeknights, I think it was like 1 in the morning or something, or 2, was it? Something like that. So I used to I just did what I could really, but obviously if you were willing to work on a Friday night or Saturday night, there was more chance you were going to get more work because they were open for longer and obviously people were about.
How much were you making in a week, do you think, on average? At the peak of it, which is probably when you first got into it.
Say maybe about 700 a week.
Right. Okay. So you've gone from working retail for what, £4 an hour or something?
Yeah.
To earning £700 a week.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does that change your life then?
Oh my God! Like I was just another person. I was so materialistic now. Everything, you know, I wanted everything to have some major price tag. I was, you know, going on holidays. I was taking my friends on holidays, paying for them to go on holiday. I was having a lot of fun because I had no worries, monetary, you know, worries. Financially, I was smashing it. I fucked off my full-time job. Went part-time. I still kept a job because I thought I still need to, you know, this was a big secret.
Right.
So I needed to stay legit. So I lessened my hours, but then I did more of the escorting. So
is anyone, when you're saying to your mates, let's all fucking go on holiday and I'll pay for it, is no one going, hang on a minute?
Yeah.
Where are you getting this money from?
Yeah.
So did you share it with anyone? Did you tell anybody?
I had a best friend, yeah. I had a best friend. But as well as that, my ultimate best friend, so I had, you know, a couple of really close friends, one of them that knew that I did what I did and I took her on holiday and stuff like I said. My other absolute best friend, she saw what I was doing and she got on it. She got into it. She started escorting.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So what was this girl's name, working name?
She was called Casey.
Casey? That's not ringing a bell. So maybe again before your time. Before I got there.
Yeah.
Okay. So she starts doing it.
Yeah.
These are the only people that know, just you and her.
Yeah.
What about your family? They're obviously
No.
they don't notice all this money.
No, they don't. Well, I told my family a bit of a backstory. I said I was working in a club in town and stuff because obviously I needed my family for childcare.
Right. Yes.
So that's where I was going at night till 4 o'clock in the morning. So they believed me. I think they never mentioned anything other to me. So
Right. I want to talk about like in more general terms now. So we'll get back to more personal stuff. But just I want to paint a picture for people of the industry as a whole.
yeah.
And I think the way we're going to do that is through sort of various sort of anecdotes and stuff. So let's start with, I've got a bunch of questions just written down here. What were the clients like in general? So and by that I mean both sort of, let's go with looks wise and sort of attitude and behaviour wise. What we're looking at, how's it range and...
Right. So I would definitely say it was older men. There was a lot
Being what's older?
being 50s, 60s,
Right.
maybe early 60s.
The majority?
Yeah, I would definitely say, yeah. Late 40s upwards, let's say.
Right.
I would say there was a lot of businessmen. I went to a lot of hotels. I mean, most of the clients, you'll probably remember, most of the clients were in hotels.
Yeah, there was a lot of it, yeah.
But obviously I think that's because of the area that we were in. I would say that...
A lot of them gentlemen,
Yeah.
normal, regular guys.
Yeah. I would say the majority normal guys, normal, regular guys. Same old story. They might have, if you get a bit, I mean, sometimes you didn't get much of a story out of them. They didn't want to chat. If you had regular clients, which I did have a lot of regular clients, then you would get a bit of an idea of why they're doing what they're doing and whatnot. But I'd say, yeah, they were mainly older guys.
So how often are you bumping into guys that meet the assumption of sort of old, ugly, smelly sort of, it don't necessarily have to be smelly, but just the sort of guy where when you open the door, it's not just like, oh, he's not really my type. He opens the door and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Every fucking day.
That's every
time.
day.
All the time. I can't recall like any times that I've actually thought I fancied one of the clients.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I can't remember any, so they couldn't have been that fucking great. Do you know what I mean? Put it that way.
Never once.
Probably did, but like I say, I can't think now off the top of my head about a time when I've really liked what they look like.
You know what? I'm sort of thinking about it now, and like you, it all sort of blurs into just one big sort of messy memory for me.
Yeah.
But I remember girls coming out and being like, "Oh my God, that was amazing," and
yeah.
I don't recall you ever doing that.
No. Do you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I had many an orgasm. But I would have an orgasm off a 50-year-old ugly guy. Do you know what I memean? It wasn't, I think...
Well, people are going to hear that and go, fucking, how does that work?
Yeah, because, I don't know, maybe they're obviously good at what they're doing. I don't know. I think, obviously, I wasn't thinking and looking and taking in what he looked like and what, I wasn't taking that in.
Are you closing your eyes, fantasizing about something else?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I'm closing my eyes. I'm thinking about someone else. I don't know who I'm thinking about at the time. Or whatever, but I'm definitely not thinking that it's this person at this time. But I did get a lot of like pleasure out of it sexually, a lot of it.
So what would your ideal client be? And I don't mean like, I'm not talking about like where you used to, Brad Pitt around 1995 would be nice or anything like that.
No, yeah.
I just mean a job where you walk in and you're like, this ain't so bad. Like, if it was these jobs all the time, this would be perfect. What would that look like?
That would genuinely be, I did prefer going to older men. They were less sort of, cocky. Because the younger clients were always a bit cocky. So the older men were a lot more respectful. I think they worshipped you a lot more because you're a young girl and, they can't believe the look kind of thing, even though they're paying for it. But, yeah, I feel like the older gentleman definitely was my preference.
What about the sex part of it, though? What's going to be the ideal there? Because, you see, one of the things I remember the girls doing is the girls that get real good at this job can go in and talk a guy's fucking socks down for the full hour, and never get round to the sex. And they either do it by The guy's sort of so into the girl that he doesn't want to,
Yeah.
don't want to come on to her or whatever,
Yeah.
or they just bore him to death so that he just can't fucking, he's just not turned on by her because
Yeah.
she's rabbiting on so much. And yeah, and another thing the girls would do is, I don't know if you ever did this, I always thought this was brilliant, was I would argue that most guys, they think that they're the exception to the rule. That when the girl walks in, she's been seeing all these dickheads and these assholes all night, but I'm different. I'm a nice guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to treat her well. And so the girls could play off that by going, oh, you know what, it's so nice to finally get a client that's nice and chilled.
Yeah.
You're so different to all the others.
Yeah.
And then they make the client sort of fall in love with them.
Yeah.
And that's where you end up with these 8-hour bookings.
Yeah.
Where he just wants to lie in bed and talk and all that shit. Did you ever do that?
Yeah, of course. You learn. It's like being an actress, I would say. I always used to say, God, I should be on Coronation Street, like, because you are acting and you learn. I think a lot of the girls, anyway, learn how to be manipulative and how easy it is to manipulate these guys, because talking was key. Like, I would clock watch all the time, but what I'd do is I would speak and speak and speak, and then before you know it, 15 minutes, oh shit, we've only got 15 minutes left, quick, get your kit off, or do you want me to stay for another hour, or it was so easy.
So would that be your ideal job then? So it would be, so we've got an older guy, preferably in like a nice hotel or a nice house or whatever, but with no sex involved.
Oh god, yeah, of course.
Right. How often do you get away with that though, you think?
Not very often.
That was the shitter, wasn't it? It was always the last 10 minutes. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah. But saying that, it would be that last, like that, it would be over pretty quick. Like, I mean, the worst sort of client, which you're probably going to ask me, is that one that absolutely wants to smash your back doors and can go for fucking ages, and you come out like you've been dragged through a bush backwards, and you think, I've got to go home.
Yeah, that
can't
did happen.
possibly. Yeah, it's happened, and it's hard work, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a full body workout.
Yeah, I've heard of girls knocking on the door, and like he opens the door and he's already like hard on with a condom on it, like fucking let's go.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible. You think, oh god, I've actually got to do some work.
What? Well, speaking of that, have you got any memorable clients?
Yeah.
That and maybe for different reasons.
Yeah.
So maybe if you gave maybe 2 or 3 memorable clients, but all for different reasons. Like one that's a complete freak, one that was really nice, one that was really rich, one that was pretty intense, anything like that.
Right, so I've got a few, and I would probably say, like, well, the first one was a very regular client, and he sort of like morphed into a bit of a sugar daddy for me. So I met him through the agency, and he used to come and see me all the fucking time. I think he was just in love with Elise. He was in love with me, and he thought he knew the real me, and that's why he was in love with me, because he thought that he actually knew about my life, and that we had this connection that I didn't have with any of the other clients. But it got to the point where he was fucking paying my rent and all sorts, and I wasn't having to do much. But it got too intense to the point of he knew a bit too much about me, and he started being a bit of a stalker. Like, I say, I had a day job, and he'd text me and he'd be like, I'm outside, I need to speak to you now. And I'd think, fucking hell, like, I mean, he'd be outside with an envelope of cash, which is fucking fabulous, but at the same time, don't blow my cover.
Yeah.
Like, I'm at work, my real day job here, and...
You know, the worst one of them I heard, I remember a girl called Vanessa that I used to work with, and she ended up, I think he's called Big Dick Dave. God. And Big Dick Dave fell in love with her. And I remember warning her about it, because she's like, he gives me all this fucking money, he pays my rent or whatever, and it was like... It's not going to be worth it in the long run, because it's going to get intense. And what he ended up doing was, one day he tried picking a young boy up from his school. Yeah? Now, they weren't in a relationship or anything like that. He just turned up at the school and tried picking her son up. And then when he didn't get away with that, he rang the school up and her job and told everybody what she'd done and completely fucking ruined her life.
Yeah, it's scary, and that's what these men are like. And not all of them, of course, but these certain types of men that get obsessed with you, and I think they want some kind of relationship with you, and they want to save you, basically.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They think that they're saving you. They probably do think that they're doing you a favour, but it's not. It's obsession, and it's unhealthy. And I got to the point where this guy, I just, like, he started to freak me out, and I was going to meet him privately as well, because I just thought, why am I paying the agency
Yeah.
when I could extort this guy so much on my own?
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And I started to actually really, really hate him. It went from, oh, do you know what, he's all right, to, do you know what, this guy, I can't stand him. He's that much of a creep. So I just started taking the piss out of him. I would tell him to advance me for appointments, and then I wouldn't turn up
Right.
and stuff like that. And then one day, I actually saw it. I was I was meant to go for an appointment in Manchester at a hotel, and he didn't even live in Manchester, so he used to come all the way, travel to Manchester to see me. And I booked this appointment with him one day, and I just completely fucking ignored him. But then I actually went into town shopping, and then I got on the train to go home, and he was on the same fucking train.
So go on, what happened then?
He was like, "Oh, hi, Elise," and I was like, "Hi," and then everyone, it's a packed train, so people are looking at him like, obviously this guy looked like old enough to be my granddad. So people are probably looking at me as if to say, why is this guy talking to this girl? And he's like, so what happened to you today? I thought we were meeting up. And I was like, oh, my phone's been broke. Sorry, I've just been, to get it sorted out. That's why I'm in town. And I could tell he was really pissed off with me. But luckily, he only clocked me like a couple of minutes before I was getting off at my stop. And I never heard of him again. I think he'd had enough of me. But yeah.
Right, okay, I think I'm going to give you a bit of guidance here, because
Right.
it's a bit of a vague question, that. So let's pinpoint some specific incidents, specific clients, the ones that are the most interesting. So I've got a list of loads here. What's the most money you've ever made on one job? And what was it? What did it involve?
So I made about, well, after agency fees, about 1,700 on one job.
Okay.
So it was an overnight job, so that of course is like £1,000, but obviously you've got to pay your agency fees and your driver, so you come out with about 700.
Right.
And then the guy gave me £1,000 tip.
Wow. Yeah. What did you do though? Because surely she had to do something fucked up for that.
No,
No.
actually.
Go on.
So basically, this guy was a very, very good customer, and he was probably the wealthiest customer because he is, famous. He's got a very, big job. He's, you'll remember him.
Oh, is it again? Let's call him Billy.
Yeah, I was thinking Billy. Yeah, we'll call him Billy. This was Billy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Should we talk about Billy? We don't have to talk about
I
what
think
he
we
did.
should talk about Billy because Billy is a big part of a lot of girls'
Yes.
experiences.
Yeah, there may even be girls listening to this episode like, oh shit, I know
Yeah.
who they're talking about here.
Yeah.
So we can't say his name because he's been in the papers. He's been gripped for all this shit.
Yeah.
He's been gripped like cheating on his missus and all that.
Oh,
shit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know that he's been in the paper for like getting his driving license taken off him for being under the influence of drugs and all that shit.
Right.
It was a bit of a wild one.
Yeah, so go on, tell people a bit about Billy. Billy.
So Billy's a can I say that?
No, I will bleep that, but
Okay. Right.
that just gives the fucking game away.
Shit. Oops. Right, okay. Billy's just very rich. He's just a very rich man, but he's very well known. He's probably a bit of a celeb. So he likes his escorts, and he also likes his cocaine. Shitloads of cocaine. Never seen anything like it. So, as I say, like, he was a regular client, so I've been to see Billy a few times, but on the first instance that I went to see him, I was, again, quite new, and it was an overnight job. So I was really scared because it was my first overnight job. I'd heard a lot about Billy in the way that he was a bit of a party animal, and I thought, shit, because, of course, like, I'm not a drug taker anymore. I stopped taking drugs when I was, when I had my daughter at 16.
Did you never do
No,
shit in the jobs,
no,
did you not?
no, and I'm a control freak in the aspect of jobs because I always had to be in control.
Right. So how did you get out of that with him? Because just so people know how fucking how intense this is, we're talking. It's like Scarface levels of cocaine, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I've girls picking girls up from
Yeah.
Billy because they're having fucking panic attacks. They think they're gonna die. They've had that much coke.
Yeah.
You just need to get them the fuck out of there and take them home.
Yeah.
He's pretty intense.
Billy's intense because what he would do is he would basically try and force you to take the drugs. He would put the fucking plate of cocaine under your fucking nose. Like, there was no two ways about it.
So how did you get out of that?
How I got out of it is because luckily the one thing about Billy was you would never go on your own.
Yeah.
There would always be 2, 3, 4, fucking 5 girls there, and then there would be girls from other agencies there or randomers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what I would do is I'd be like, oh, I've just had one. Like, just had one in the bathroom because it was like Scarface. It was fucking everywhere.
And it was really good coke, wasn't it?
Yeah,
As well?
it was. I'm not gonna lie. I had one cheeky line.
There we go.
Right, so this was the first night that I went to go and see him, and the reason why is because I drank so much champagne. Was having a party basically. It was in a presidential suite of a hotel. We weren't in Manchester. It was out of town, but it was like a presidential suite. We had the full floor to ourselves. So he'd brought loads of people back to party, like random, you know, girls, boys, all that kind of shit. And then obviously us escorts. And he used to like role play, so he'd asked us to, you know, sort of act as if we were waitresses. So we were still fully clothed and that. We weren't even naked, but we weren't letting on that we were there because we were being paid to be there. We were just friends of his, or his friends' wives. That was another thing that he used to role play.
Right. Billy's married, remember, people with kids and all that.
He's married with kids. So basically, what I would do, is that I would have to say, you know, I've just been to the bathroom to have a line. Don't worry, I'm all right. Don't want another one yet. I'll have one in a minute. Yeah, and sort of distract him.
He would. This motherfucker had enough money that he would sometimes book. So our agency was based in Manchester, and he would book girls. If he was in London, he would get the agency to bring girls all the fucking way down, rather than just get an agency in London to do it.
Yeah.
He'd get girls all the way down to fucking London for jobs.
He would. And I think it was because he was so high profile and he had so much to lose, really. He trusted our agency and he trusted our girls. And that's why he would do things like that. But yeah, like you say, like he had no end of money. Yeah,
just so people know as well, I don't really know too much about the ins and outs of this, but Karen, that was running the agency, she definitely had contacts sort of high up in local government and potentially with the police and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of her job was covering up for celebrities, high profile clients and stuff like that. And you know, do you remember the whole newspaper thing? Do you remember there was a girl that was going to sell an article?
Yeah.
And so Karen's job with that was to try and negotiate to pay the girl more money than the newspapers were going to pay her to sort of keep all that shit out of the press. So, yeah, just trying to give people an idea of all the sort of the politics and shit that's involved in it, because some of it's high level stuff.
Of course, yeah. I mean, like, but this guy was that high profile, and you know the Scarface thing. I'd been to his house once, and I'd met his drug dealer. And I was fucking terrified because he took a bit of a liking to me.
Right.
But this wasn't just a drug dealer. This was like a drug baron.
Right, we're talking like Heisenberg.
Yeah. And he was saying to me, oh, remember that time when we all got arrested and the helicopters came for us and luckily we didn't have all that coke on us. And, you know, so, you know, these were serious guys. So I wouldn't dare sell a story on this Billy or anything like that because you probably won't live much longer to tell the tale again, put it that way.
What's let's jump through some of these now. What about, like, have you got a best job, like the best job you've ever been on, for whatever reason that is? Like, you look back at it and you're like, that was fucking amazing that night.
Billy. Every time I was going to see Billy, it was fucking mint. Do you know what? Like,
but it sounds chaos, and I've got to say,
chaos.
Like I say, I'm not exaggerating when girls would almost crawl to the car so fucked up on sniff.
Yeah.
And it's just, and the receptionist is just like, just get her the fuck home because
Yeah.
she's going to drop dead. I mean, it really was that intense.
Well, yeah,
But
I mean,
but how, that doesn't sound fun to me.
no, because the thing that's actually a bit mad is my best jobs were with Billy, but also my worst ever job was with Billy. So I'll tell you about that later
Yes,
as well.
no, do that now. We've brought it up. The
Okay,
worst
right,
ever
okay.
job.
My worst ever job, like I say, my best friend got into escorting with me, and they used to sell us as a pair, really, because guys used to like the fact that we were best friends and, you know, we'd grown up together. We were almost like sisters, so, you know, some guys have this fantasy. So we made a lot of money that way. Yeah, well, all guys, I don't know. But yeah, so Billy used to love us. Billy used to love us, and she used to take cocaine, so she would do it, but then like I used to pretend to do it. And like I say, I never really drank in my appointments because I'd always want to be in control. Like I would never want to lose any kind of control because I was always very aware of my safety. So we were both on this job together, and she basically took too much. He took her down to a hotel room where there was some of his friends, and she come back up, and she couldn't even walk. She was that high on coke, and she passed out. And Billy actually got off, left us in the hotel room because he thought she was dead. So he'd gone, left me here with my best friend. There was another girl as well that he'd just brought, some, you know, like an escort that was working for herself. So she was slapping her around the face. So I thought I'd just lost my best friend. So that was the worst.
So you really thought she was dead?
I thought she was dead.
Fucking hell.
I thought she was dead. She ended up having a fit, being sick, and then the driver came and picked us up. And
was that Michael by any chance?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Imagine him dealing with that.
Yeah. He was a fucking nervous wreck anyway, weren't he? So it was a bit much.
Right, okay. Fucking Billy. Right, let's try and avoid Billy now for the rest of the conversation. I don't know if we will. What's the weirdest job you've ever had?
Right, so I was asked to go on this job with an older escort that worked for the agency. So
what was her name?
Oh, I can't even fucking remember, you know. I only met her a couple of times because she actually drove herself. So the thing is, when you have a driver, you meet a lot of the girls because you're all in the car together. When escorts drive themselves, you don't really meet them unless you go on a job with them.
Yeah, there is the two different cultures
under
one agency, isn't there? Yeah.
Completely. So this lady drove herself, so I didn't really get to see her often. I only actually saw her, I think, 3 times and twice doing the job with this guy that I'm going to talk about now. So it was a role play job. So they had to word me up before I went to this appointment because he said, you know, it is a bit weird. So he was basically a businessman, an older businessman, again, probably in his 50s. But he liked role play, and the role play he wanted was that I was a young girl. I had to, you know, come off as younger than what I was. So I was 21 at the time, 22 maybe. But I had to pass off as like an 18-year-old.
Right.
And I was coming for an interview with my with this guy who was the boss of an agency, an escorting agency. He wanted to pose as this guy, and I'm coming to interview for him.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman was my auntie, and I was shocked that she also worked for this agency. So this was the role play, but then it got weirder because then he started to get undressed, and he was fucking basically like dressed as a cross-dresser.
Okay.
So he had negligee, you know.
How old is he?
50 odd, businessman.
Good body?
No.
Your face.
That was the first time I met him, okay, so that was the first set of role play. So that was a bit weird, first of all. It was hard to sort of keep a straight face. But the second time was probably a bit weirder. Because I turned up and he was already dressed as a woman, but he looked like he had this wig on. He looked a bit like Myra Hindley.
Right, that's...
You know, that kind of style.
The worst, most unsexy woman possible, yeah.
He had a pencil skirt on, but down to the ankles.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen, and this shirt, a blue shirt, that I'd never seen anyone iron so well. Like, it was not a crease in sight, it was great. But, yeah, and then he was dressed up, and they had, underneath when he undressed, after a bit of doing whatever role play we did at that point, he was in this hot pink, like, stockings and suspenders and bra and stuff like that, and Yeah, he would have sex with us both, basically.
Still
but
dressed in all
dressed
his
in his
negligee.
gear, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
well, you've dropped yourself in the shit. I'm going to pull you up on something in a minute.
Go
But
on.
before I forget, you know what I'm going to fucking talk
I
about.
don't know.
Do you not?
Oh, yeah, I do know, actually. Of course I know.
But before that, to sort of cast the net a bit wider, is what about shit you've heard about? Like weird jobs that girls have been on, or weird clients. Like what are the most extremes of the industry that even if you've not come across, you know other people have?
You hear some scary stories, which is a bit bleak, but I remember the girl that I first ever met, the girl Alex that was in the car when I first went for my interview. She had an incident where the guy basically was really weird, and she felt to the point he put like a snuff movie on basically for her to watch, and like was saying you need to watch it. Every time she tried to like look away, he was like trying to force her to watch it, and she felt like he was gonna, attack her or kill her or something.
Yeah, have you not had? I know a couple of girls that have been told to pretend to be dead.
Yeah.
Well, they've done the whole thing
hell.
like like go lie in a cold bath or whatever for a while, bring your body temperature down and everything,
No, I've never.
so that you're cold to the touch,
Yeah.
and then just sort of lie there and pretend to be dead. Any paedophiles?
I've had a few people say, "Have you got a little sister? Have you, asked me things like that?" Which obviously, that makes me think you're a fucking weirdo. But I've never had anyone straight up tell me they're a paedophile.
I think the
Luckily.
weirdest story I've got a lot of stories, and this is weird for like a quirky reason. This was at Karen's agency.
Yeah.
There was one girl, I don't know if you ever came across this guy. She went to see this guy who liked girls to shit out of windows.
Oh God, no.
Did you never hear of him?
No. Well, that's something that I definitely missed out on.
Yeah, so I remember I'd heard about him, and then I think I dropped a girl off to him a couple of times. It's one of them where he wasn't like a regular for years. You know, some of them, they have like a period, they're there for 3 months every fucking day, and then they disappear. I think he was one of them. And yeah, I remember turning up to one, it was a hotel, which was tricky because the girls used to say, in hotels you can't open the window fully.
Yeah.
So we'd have like a little toolkit purposefully so we could open the window so the girls could stick their ass out.
Oh, wow.
And I remember taking him to one hotel once, I think it was a travel lodge, and the only rooms that were available when we arrived there were the ground floor.
Oh, God.
And so he was like, that's not high enough.
Yeah.
Right? So we had to fucking go home. And then I remember one night watching that it just so happened I was in the car park and I see the window open and I'm looking up and it's like the dead of night and, it's got like that orange glow of the car park from the street lights. And it's deathly silent and I'm sat there in a car park watching a girl shuffle a bare ass out the window. And then after a couple of seconds, I just saw the shadow of the turd sort of drop against the hotel. And then you heard it sort of go in the bush.
I love it.
And that's one of the moments where you're just like, what the fuck am I doing with my life doing this job?
I know. The other weird thing that I've just thought about actually when you're saying that, I've not shit out of a window, but I used to have this guy that I didn't ever have sex with, but he used to just get absolutely off his head, like drugs and drink, and then like he would used to want me to watch him like streaking down the road and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Like stand at the door and watch and laugh at him.
Yeah, have you not done the hotel streak? That was a bit of a common one. Like the guys get you. Fucking hell.
No, I haven't lived, clearly. I have not lived.
Yeah, that seemed to be one that girls ended up doing a lot with in the hotels, like, just take your kit off and leg it down the corridor, that sort of thing.
That's funny, no, I've never got to do that.
Water sports?
Yeah, water sports, yeah, normal.
That normal, is it?
Yeah, you start to normalise yourself to things, because you do see, like I say, the cross-dressing and that, you get to normalise yourself to it. Humiliation, you normalise yourself to it. These little fetishes that they have, I think you just get normalised to a lot of stuff.
Well, here we go. So it's how about it's about how it's changed your sexuality, like the lasting impact that it's had on it, whether it's sort of influenced it in a good way or a bad way. Before I get into the specifics, how do you think it's changed your sexuality? How it's affected it, either negatively or positively or both?
At the time when I was working a lot, I felt like I didn't have a sex drive because, if I was speaking to someone or meeting up with someone or, you know, had a boyfriend for a short time or something like that, I didn't find myself wanting to have sex with him much because I was having so much sex at work.
Mm.
So in that sense, it's sort of, at the time, it puts a bit of a downer on it because it's a job. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a job. Like, when I was working in retail, I saw it as the same thing. Whereas now, I would say I'm a lot more open. I'm a lot more, you know, try things out. Not as vanilla,
Right.
should I say,
Yeah.
as I used to be.
So is there any particular things that you've sort of brought into the bedroom that maybe you do on a regular basis? Like, if you found any kinks, any fetishes, anything that you've caught, and don't do the extreme one yet, we are going to get to that. But I'm thinking about more regularly, like that every time you get in bed now with somebody, even if it's just that you're just more confident in, you can have sex with the lights on, you can come like loud and sort of openly and not be inhibited anymore. Just anything that sort of changed you fundamentally.
I think definitely because when I was escorting, because like I say, I always made sure I was in control of the situation. I felt very powerful. So I think having sex in everyday life, not being an escort, I would want that power taken away from me, if that makes
Right,
sense.
yeah.
So I would, not to the point where I would say I was a submissive and I have that kind of fetish, but to the point where I would like to sort of be, you know, roughened up a bit, so to speak, because that is not something I would ever let happen when I was escorting. I was always in control, like, you know, I would say what I wanted to do and what I was happy with, and that's it. If you don't like it, lump it. You know, I'll give you your fucking money back and walk away. Don't need it. That kind of thing. I would never do anything or be pressured into anything. So in everyday life, I would definitely say I'm more sort of like, you know, I like getting sort of like thrown about a bit, I suppose.
Has it changed the kind of guys that you're attracted to at all?
100%. I sort of well, it did for a bit, I think, anyway. I think I'm changing my mind again now about the kind of guys that I'm attracted to. But at the time, I did get a bit bored of escorting. Like, you know, like I say, you lose your sex drive, everything's like that. And you get to the point where you think, oh, if I just met that one guy that'd look after me, that one rich man, I'm out of the game. So I was looking for that rich guy. I was looking for that rich man so I didn't have to do it again. So I'd have everything that I wanted, all these materialistic things and all these holidays that I wanted to go on, but I wouldn't actually have to do the work that I used to.
But the thing that sort of immediately brings up is, why is it that you're aiming for, like a guy that can pay for shit and look after me? Why are you not looking for love?
Exactly, because I didn't fucking care about love, because I just wanted someone to look after me financially. I was that in a warp of money, 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 because it came so easy and so often that that's all that mattered to me at that point in my life.
But has that lasted?
No.
So you would now be interested in finding somebody, or maybe is it just that you're not interested in the money thing anymore? Or is it that you're not interested in the money thing anymore and you're open to the idea of meeting someone and falling in love again?
I'm interested in the money thing, definitely still.
Okay.
Not to the point where I was, but the reason why is because I did meet that man that I was so desperate for that I stopped. That's why I stopped escorting, because I met someone that I was that serious about, that I thought he's got everything, he ticks all the boxes, he's rich, he's this, that, and the other, and that's why I stopped escorting, and that's probably the worst person I've ever met in my life. He was horrible to me. So once I broke away from that and I've sort of built myself up, now when I think back, that's not what I needed. I probably had more fun escorting and being in that life and being in control and looking after myself, really, financially and everything, than relying on somebody else for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And we'll get to that in a minute, the sort of magnetism of the industry, the way it sort of keeps pulling you back.
Yeah.
But I've teased it too much now, and people are gonna be like, what's that fucking thing?
Yeah.
So you tell us about this experience that you had, that you've got a bit of a thing for this now.
Yeah.
Like you get off on this now.
Yeah.
So how did this come about?
So, I was working at a parlour, And I had this little guy come in.
Oh, parlours. Hang on a minute. Let's be quick about this. The dynamics of the parlours is how different they are. Because I've worked the parlours and the agencies, and so have you. And I would say that it's two completely different fucking worlds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially it's the same thing that's driving it, but the environment's different. I don't think I'm lying. I was going to say I don't think the camaraderie is the same between the girls. See, my problem is you've worked in a few places. I've worked in a shitload, and the dynamic sometimes was, what am I looking for here? In a parlour, there's no denying what you're doing. The guys come in, they book in for half an hour. It's upstairs. You get the job done. They leave. But a lot of girls manage to sort of maintain a level of pretense in escorting. They'll judge girls in escorting will judge parlour girls
Of course.
and judge street girls.
Yeah.
And sort of pretend that they're into something in something different.
Yeah.
And I've always I feel like there's a family spirit that gets in these places because you're all sort of in it together. You're part of this sort of weird nightlife culture. I think it's Chris Rock says that joke. No one's ever taken like $400 out of an ATM at 2 a.m. for something good.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
But we've been part of that culture. It's like a whole little world that exists on its own, and you're in this bubble, and everyone's sort of in it together. But what do you think the dynamics are between the girls? I think that the dynamics are a little more sort of family oriented in the escort. And the girls look out for each other a lot more. It's a bit more dog eat dog in the parlours. Would you agree?
I think a parlour is a meat market.
Yeah.
So you literally, when someone comes into a parlour, you sort of have to fight for their attention because you're there, you're in front of them. You're not a photo on a website.
It's all the girls come out and stand in reception.
Yeah, and you sort of take your pick.
Yeah.
So that's why I think there's more competition in a parlour.
But the thing for you is, you did it the other way around. A lot of girls will start in a parlour and then realise there's better money to be made in an agency and then move to there. But you did it the other way around.
Yeah.
So you've gone from this parlour, this agency that's in a fucking mansion and, driven around in posh cars in Michael or whatever, high-profile clients.
Yeah.
People are like, fuck off steering her away from this fruity story, will you?
No. We'll get there.
But that's a story of its own. How have you ended up because the parlours are gritty and grimy. I've never worked in a nice parlour. I've worked in places where the girls are nice and everyone gets on, but it's gritty. It's like a dirty environment. How have you gone from the agency to the parlour, and how did you feel? You're not anymore the £160 an hour girl on the website with your promotion of Karen. You're stand up, it's a meat market, and getting paid what are the rates when you were doing it? For half an hour? 30 quid for half an hour. So how did that happen, and then how did you feel about that the first time you stand up and you've joined the meat market, as you put it?
Well, I left the agency because I had a bit of a run-in with Karen. She could be a bit disrespectful.
Oh, she was that's an understatement. She could be a complete cunt to the girls.
She was very nasty to me. She thought that I was seeing someone privately that I wasn't, and she accused me of it, and then she threatened me, and I thought, who the fuck are you speaking to? Like, you don't speak to me like that. Like, no way, you're a fucking bully. So I said no.
She was, yeah.
Fuck it. She was a bully. So I thought, no, fuck it.
So did you quit or get fired?
I quit.
Right.
I quit. In the end, she rang back and she was like, no, it was wrong. I thought X, Y, and Z. I was like, right, well, forget about it now.
So you leave there, you immediately feel like you shot yourself in the foot?
Thought, fucking hell, like, yeah. I did, but I didn't. I was glad. I felt like I finally stood up to her. You know what I mean? Like, but I thought, yeah, my little income's gone. Like, so I need to find something quick. And what I did was I had a little think about it. And the other agencies in Manchester were a bit more, you had to work longer shifts, basically. And I just didn't feel that I could do that, with childcare and whatnot. I'm talking like 6 in the evening till 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
And obviously I still had this normal job, shall we say. So I just felt like another agency wasn't an option. So I thought, well, why don't I try a parlour? It's more stability because you're in one place rather than driving around all over the show. And parlours are not always open at night. The one that I chose in particular shut at 9 o'clock. So, that was perfect for me. Like,
Did it?
yeah, yeah.
Fucking, I've never known
And
they
it
were
was,
shutting that early.
yeah, we didn't open overnight, and it was the most high class of parlours that you could go
Right,
to.
okay.
So that was another thing. I wouldn't have just gone to any parlour. I was in my head, I was a high class escort, so
Right.
it was this parlour or none.
Right.
Like, I would have to go out of town otherwise.
Okay.
That was my idea. So obviously I got in touch with them again, went to the interview and all that lot, and got the job.
Do you think because you'd already done the escorting, you just sort of got straight into it, no big deal?
Yeah, no, I didn't find it a big deal.
It didn't feel like a step down or anything like that?
No, not
right,
at all.
Okay.
Because this parlour, the work had died off with the agency as well, just before, before we move on. The work had died off a lot because I've been working there for years, a couple of years now. And obviously there's girls coming and going all the time. And at this moment in time, there was a couple of girls that I felt like were favourites, and they were getting all the work thrown at them.
Yeah.
And, because they want to entice the new girls, especially the young new girls. So my work was dying off anyway, so I didn't care about going to the parlour. And I knew this particular parlour, I could earn £1,000 a day if I wanted to. So I didn't feel like I was taking a step down at all. And in fact, I wasn't. I was making more money.
Well, yeah, I was thinking, if you're coming out with £30 for half an hour, that's, per hour, you're already on more.
Yeah, and don't forget you get tips, and you can charge for extras.
Right.
Like in the escorting.
So what does that mean to the people who don't know?
Yeah, so in escorting, you can't really charge for extras. You're giving your time as a companion. It's not really that they're paying for sex. So, I mean, obviously you do what you want to do, but generally speaking, you shouldn't really charge extras. So extras are things like oral sex without a condom, or
Anal.
Yeah. If you do anal, or even rimming if you do rimming, and different things like that, or even like the role play thing, you could charge extra for that in a parlour. So there was a lot more money to be made, really.
So no, I'm not going to skip it anymore. Let's get to this, because we're still sort of merging this sort of the development of sexuality and where you're at sort of chronologically here as well. So sorry folks, I know I've kept interrupting, but this is the nature of doing these interviews. But tell us about this, because when you first told me about it, I was like, fucking hell, that's like one of them. It was like a moment of self-discovery.
Yeah,
You realise something about yourself.
Yeah, so I had this client, and it was in the parlour, and he came in, he went upstairs, he had this shopping bag with him, Asda bag, whatever.
What's he look like?
He was Chinese, man, small, slim
How old?
build, probably about late 40s.
Good looking?
I wouldn't say he was ugly or anything, like
average.
He was average, but he was smaller than me, like I had heels on, of course, but he was smaller than me, and he was definitely slimmer than, he's like, I'm not a big girl, but he was really slim, and that kind of build, quite boy-like, really. But obviously an older gentleman. He had glasses and stuff like that. I went into the room, and he basically said to me, like, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. But he basically had in his bag, like, stockings and suspenders and some little kitten heels. So I was like, right, okay, like, go for it, sort of thing. So he got dressed up and everything, and we had sex, but I felt quite aroused. Like, I don't know why.
You said you proper got off on it.
I really did. And like I say, normally I didn't pay attention to what was going on whilst I was doing it. Like, it was sort of like I'm thinking what I'm going to be doing with the money, or thinking what I'm having for my tea, or thinking what I'm doing tomorrow or next week. But I was into this. I was in the moment, and I enjoyed it. And I thought, oh, wow, like...
See, that's a perfect example of, like, in your regular everyday sex life or whatever, as a civilian sex life, the chances of you coming across something like that are pretty slim.
Yeah.
And it's only by having done that job that you end up in that sort of interaction with somebody. But then the other tricky part of it is, if that's something that's like proper got you off and you really enjoyed it, where the fuck do you go for it now? Like, do you still like, do you watch porn that's...
Yeah, I do. So I watch porn. I watch
Yeah.
that kind of porn.
What's that kind of porn? What would you...
I would say
its category?
like trans porn.
Right.
You know, where more sort of like, I mean, this guy didn't go all out makeup and a wig, but I would say that's what I'm into. I would say like I'm into trans women with a dick still. Yeah. But this guy obviously wasn't like that. He was just dressed up in the get-up. But it's not happened since. I've not had that kind of sexual encounter like that since. I've not gone looking for a sexual encounter like that since. But definitely, if one was to swing my way, I think it would be something that I would be interested in.
But it's not, is it something you miss, like that you want to do? Because I think it's different for guys and girls. Like guys having a what's it called, a paraphilia, a fetish or whatever is common with guys, and it becomes like the thing that they want to do all the time. Like guys with a foot fetish or whatever, it becomes their whole sexuality, and they chase after it a lot. Is that the same for you with that?
Not at all, no.
So you're just happy to sort of stumble across it?
Yeah, I think I'm not one of them people that have got like... I think when you have like a fetish or something, a lot of it is about having an addictive personality as well, and it's totally, not something that I think that I have, like, you know, so I think it's something that I can just pass off. Like I say, it's not something that I'm addicted to and I really want to do all the time or I'm actively seeking. It's just something that I think I came across and I liked it, simply.
The other one you've mentioned to me is fisting. You're looking at me confused now.
Oh, right, no, yeah. Do you mean in my life? Me, I've never fisted someone.
No, I thought you were into getting fisted.
It's the same again, though. It's not something that I would do, escorting-wise. Definitely not. I think I'm a lot stricter. Quite a strict escort.
Oh, hang on. So you wouldn't do that as an escort?
No.
But you've done it in your private life?
But I've done it in my private life. But again, I think it's the control thing, losing the control sort of thing. Like... having, you know, like really rough sex in my private life because I'm, you know, being so prim and proper maybe. And does that make sense? Like, I sold the whole girlfriend experience when I was an escort, and, you know, I always came across as younger than what I was and stuff like that. So I don't think I've ever sort of had an instance where I don't think my clientele was the type of clientele that wanted anal sex, that wanted to fucking fist me, that wanted, you know, that kind of thing. I get you. I was quite innocent. I was seen as quite innocent and cute and young, you know, that kind of thing. That's what I was selling. So you came across that in your private life. So is that just with somebody that you've sort of slept with casually, or was this like in a relationship? That was a relationship that I had. Right, okay. But he was quite a dominant individual, so I enjoyed that. Right, okay, moving on. So this is sort of something that sort of affects me as well, and it's this it's the allure of the industry. Yeah. So I've been out of it now for 4 years, something like that. Done the occasional run in between for girls that I've kept in contact with, but as far as working for agencies, not been involved in it. And it seems to happen to me where I come out of the game for a couple of years, and then I start to miss it. Yeah. And I find myself, you know, looking up these old numbers and thinking about calling and wanting to get back into it. And for me, it's because it was that environment where, well, like I was saying before, you're a bunch of fucking freaks that are all up to no good. But you're all in it together, and you've got a bunch of people that have all got these sort of shared secrets, and no one's judging each other either. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, if a girl can come out of a job and, like we're just talking about, then she'd be like, oh my God, I just got fucking fisted. I've never done that before. Yeah. In civilian life, it's going to be like, fucking slag. Yeah, of course. But for us lot, it's all like, oh my God, really, what happened? And, and no one gives a fuck. No. And it's all just, it's good fun. And as long as people are coming out of the jobs and they've had a bit of fun with it, or it's just been neutral. Yeah. It all seemed good. But I feel like you can't have those. I don't know whether it's just me, and we're getting back to the adopted thing, this bit of an outcast or whatever. But I struggle to have those sorts of relationships with people outside of that environment. The environment I've ended up in now, where I'm around the halls of academia and professors and clinicians and stuff like that, and they're perfectly fine people, but I don't feel close to them
it's not the same way. We don't share any secrets, and
Yeah.
I still feel like an outcast in the real world, and I don't know if you've got the same.
Yeah. I feel like I could never open up to these certain people because it is the whole judgment thing. Whereas when you're an escort, you're basically doing probably the most frowned upon things in society, one of the most frowned upon things in society, and you're a rebel. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why it brings us all close together. Because, like you say, we can't judge, we won't judge. We're all in the same boat. And if anybody outside knew, they'd sink that boat, but we wouldn't. We'd be there trying to row
Yeah.
it together. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are a family,
Mm.
100%, and you do make some good friends. And obviously, I've lost touch of a lot of the girls over the years and stuff like that. I probably don't speak to hardly any now. I mean, I've got the odd one, that I'll catch up with every year or so, but I do often think, like, what are they up to? And I hope they're all good, and things like that. Definitely.
See, I've got two stories from working in this industry that sort of embody that, and one of them involves you. I don't know if you're going to remember this, but the first one was when the parlour that I was working for was it was all going to shit, and money was getting tighter and tighter, and I ended up getting fired from the job, like watching the door and that, and taking the girls to the hotels and stuff. And I think it had been like, I've probably told this story a few times and told it in different versions. I misremember it. It's fucking, like 15 years ago or something now. But the main point of it was that after about a week, the girls were all phoning me and going, "Oh my God, we miss you so much. Like, can you not just come in and visit us?" And I was like, I'd love to, but I can't. I'm out of work. I can't afford to just keep driving to Manchester just to come and hang out. And so what the girls did is privately, between them, they all chipped in a kitty and they paid my same wages so that I could go there and do the job that, even though the boss didn't want me doing anymore, they didn't have anyone looking after him anymore.
Like, who would do that? You know what I mean?
And I've always remembered that. Do you know what I mean? It was a proper little funny moment where I was just like, shit, like, everyone's down for each other here. And then the other one is, I think I'd not seen you at the agency for fucking ages. And I don't know what the chronology of it is, whether you'd just quit for a while. I think it was when you were going out with Bruno Mars.
Oh, yeah. Because it wasn't actually Bruno Mars, guys.
But he really did look like him. I'm not making fun of him because he's like a proper good-looking guy, wasn't he? Yeah. But he really looked like Bruno Mars. And so I think you'd gone off and tried to make it work with him or something.
Yeah.
And it was when you was living in, I won't say.
Yeah.
You were living in a terrace house.
Yeah.
Near Manchester. And you'd come back, and on your first night, it was me and you in the car all night. I don't know if you remember this. We ended up sat in McDonald's.
Yeah.
Till like, I must have picked you up at 5, and we sat at McDonald's till like 4 a.m. near the bingo place.
Yeah.
Do you remember there?
Yeah, yeah.
And me and you sat there all night, just the two of us, and we were just chatting shit all night. We were talking about our ambitions and what we're going to do with our life, and now we're going to get out of the game and all this bollocks.
Yeah.
And, sun comes up slowly, like night turns into day, and not a fucking single phone call had come in. And the reason we clung on for it that long was because you were like, I'm on my fucking ass with money.
Yeah.
And we clung on, no jobs came in. I took you home, and you were getting a bit stressed and emotional. And I ended up lending you a bunch of money because, see if this clicks, you were so in the shitter, money-wise, that you were feeding your kids and your cat sugar puffs. That's all you had in the house. Do you not remember that?
No.
You had nothing in. No food. You didn't have any food in the house. All you had was... You're like, I'm feeding even the cat is on sugar puffs. I gave you some money to get you by through the week. But what I remember about it was just that the way you, like, I don't know that many people had... If I was that much in the shit and someone said to me, like, is everything okay? I'd be like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it was like you was able to tell me the truth. Like, I'm really in the fucking shitter here. And then you got dead upset when I gave you the money as well, because you felt dead guilty about it. And then you wouldn't shut the fuck up about it for weeks, because we were going through a dry spell in the agency and no jobs are coming in. Yeah. And then, like, we'd go out and you'd get like one job, and so you'd be going on with 50 quid, and then you'd be like, yeah, you can. And I was like, no, fuck it, wait till we're back on the up again. But it's that's what I mean. It's that I miss, that people are down for each other
We
like
look
that.
after each other. We really do. Like, we really look after each other. Like, it's just, it's more of a family than I had growing up, really. And I think that's why I stayed so long, because, like you say, Karen was a bitch. She was horrible. She extorted us, you know, like, it wasn't always so fun at times, but the girls and you and the other drivers, we made it fun. We made it worthwhile, basically.
But the shit thing for me is I try and replicate it. I try and, you know, I sit down at, like, again, you go to the university, I've got some projects on, and I'll sit down with all these people, and they're really nice people, but they're just not my people.
Yeah.
And even though I'm like, give it a chance, it's people invite me to things, and it's like, I haven't clicked with you that way. I'm not going to be part of that crowd. And it's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if I'm addicted to that lifestyle in the same way. And now at the minute where you're at the moment, you've been working a regular job now for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But even you're sort of getting back into
Yeah.
the sex industry, aren't you,
Yeah.
again? Not as an escort, but
No.
in a different guise. And but what's your motivations for that?
Again, money. But the thing is, like, I used to think at the time when I was escorting, like, you know, at first it was great, and then towards the end of it, I thought, this is fucking horrible. What am I doing? You know, like, I've sort of felt as if, like, I was selling myself short, kind of thing, and I shouldn't be doing it, and I was miserable. But then obviously I got into that relationship, like I say, with a rich guy. That was absolutely diabolical. That was actually the worst time in my life, not when I was escorting. And this is what's made me realise, now I've come out of this and I'm back and I'm feeling a lot better about myself and stuff. I think that my most independent and powerful and, you know, sort of financially stable part of my whole life has been when I was escorting. So I think that's what drags me back. And like I say, not the escorting now, but I think it's just totally because I've got a completely different look to what I used to have when I was younger. And I think the reason why it drags you back in is because not only is it like a financial sort of like comfort blanket, you think, you know, you could always go back to that. That's how I think. But again, it's an emotional comfort blanket because, you know, like you say, you can be yourself around these people. We're not judgy people. It's friends that you're in it together, and you've got a lot to.
I don't know if this is the same for you, and this is going to sound even more pathetic for me because even though it's the same industry, my job was essentially just driving.
Yeah.
Right, but this is pathetic. But I'm going to say it anyway because it's true. Is I feel like it's the only thing I've ever been good at.
Yeah.
Like I know,
yeah.
I'm just, and people are like, you're a taxi driver, but it's like
You were more than that.
you know, I've looked after girls, I've put girls off that didn't belong in the industry. You know, I've given girls money, I've protected girls, I've been chinned, I've had my fucking car nicked, all sorts of bullshit that I've done.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that I've done, you know, directly for the girls.
Yeah.
And I know that, again, this is going to sound pathetic, but was you at that meeting that Karen had at her house where she was getting a bit wound up? Fuck it, I don't care that this is a source of pride for me. There was a time at the agency where too many of the girls, I love this, too many of the girls are ringing up and saying, I'm thinking of signing on, and they go, is Danny on? And then
of course.
the receptionist would go, no, and they'd go, I'll leave it then.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
And then, so Karen's getting wound up by this because the girls are favouring me. And then this is pathetic, but it's still great. When she got all the girls, when she used to do like the annual meetings or whatever,
Yeah.
she made them all put their hands up and vote who was the favourite driver, right? Was you not there for that
No,
meeting? Right?
unfortunately.
Yeah, and so I was voted the favourite driver, like almost unanimously, right? Which I know it sounds like such petty, like popularity bullshit contest. Like, oh great, you know, like a bunch of prostitutes have put their hand up for you. They like driving around in the car with you. But for me, it's like, again, I don't care. Like
Yeah.
I was good at that job.
Yeah, of course you were. Yeah, you were. And I mean, I'm not being funny, but we had a lot of drivers come and go, and the drivers would, you know, because there is some girls that are vulnerable, but some of the drivers, we had instances where they would fucking sort of like extort the girls
Yeah.
for their own needs and stuff like that. So a driver is very, very important, and to be a favourite driver, that's even more important because, you know, it just is like, you are our safety. You are our safety. Our life is in your hands.
Yeah, to an
Do you know what I
extent,
mean?
yeah.
Like, that's how I felt. I wouldn't drive myself, but I would be happy with the driver. But I would not have been happy with set drivers that we did have in the agency that would come and go. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, I felt uncomfortable. I felt like they just thought I was a piece of meat and, like, you know what I mean?
The other reason...
Whereas you weren't. We were your friends.
Yeah. The other thing that was good about it as well is, like we was talking about Michael before, Michael was like, he was well into the job in the sense that, so he would like, he'd get like a 30 grand car on finance with all leather seats and heated seats to make sure the girls are all being driven around in luxury. And he'd have all his little stock of things for the girls. Like it was his whole life, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course.
I was driving you lot round in like a shitty Mondeo diesel, not because I didn't have any money, I was fucking raking it in, but because it was just super cheap on the diesel and I made a load of money. And it was like, even that being the case, you're driving around with me in a shitter or in the lap of luxury with Michael, but the girls wanted to hang out with me.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. And I've never got that from anywhere else.
No,
but
of course.
A long roundabout way of saying it, do you feel to any extent that that's the same for you, where you're like, I've done other things and I've not achieved a certain level of success and I'm good at this?
Well, yeah, exactly like I say, I got a fucking promotion. Like, you know, I got put on the elite list. I had so many regular clients that wanted to see me all the time, that loved my companionship, shall I say, because, you know, when you do get your regular clients, it's not about sex, it's about who you are. Even though you're not being your true self, you've got a fake name, you've got a fake persona. You know, I didn't even dress the way I would dress day to day, of course, because I used to have to dress like a businesswoman kind of thing. But yeah, I did feel good at it. I felt like it, you know, I was really, really good at it.
Yeah.
And now, the reason why I'm sort of stepping back into it by my little toe, it's because people are coming to me, not because I'm seeking it.
Yep.
So I think there must be something about me that I am good at sexualizing myself, whether it's because someone wants to come and rub my feet for half an hour and pay me, or whether, you know, it's because they want to pay for an hour of my chat or whatever. There's something.
But do you feel secure in that? Like, are you okay with it? Like thinking, fuck it.
Yeah, of course. It's something that now I'm learning to be proud of, and I think all women should, like, you know, work it, you know, sex work, still work, like it's still a job, still, you know, something that you can be good at, because, you know, it's not always seedy. You get men that you know, it's like, you know, when women go to the hairdressers and they let it all out, what's been going on with the boyfriend and all that, and he's done this and he's done that. You get the same when people come to sex workers. You're like a fucking counsellor half the time. You know, I've had men cry at me, and I've had to console them and just give them a hug. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, men tell me things that they probably haven't, you know, ever told people and stuff like that. So, you know, there's a lot more to it than just shagging. And obviously, if you're good at it and people feel comfortable around you, then I think that, you know, why shouldn't you be proud of it?
So if I said to you now, Elise for the rest of her life is going to be involved in the sex industry to some degree or other, like that's how you're going to earn your living.
Yeah.
Are you fine with that? Does that feel uncomfortable or?
No, I think that rings true. I think sex sells, and, you know, I am money motivated. I've got 3 kids that I've got to look after. I've got, you know, a family, and I want to make something out of my life, and it's something that I'm good at. And whether it's me or whether it's me guiding girls to help them in the industry, I'm going to be part of that industry one way or another. So whether it's behind a screen or a phone, because I get people that want me to just ring them up and, you know, speak to them, or whether it's, you know, face-to-face sex work, I think that, yeah, I'm gonna be stuck in the industry.
Okay, and this is a pretty intense question as a sort of bringing things to a close here.
Yeah.
Is you've just spoken about it being like, you know, just do it anyway, you know, own your sexuality, you know, take pride in it. If that's what you're good at, if that's what you can make money at, you do it safely, then why the hell not?
Yeah. You've
got a little girl.
Yeah.
How would you feel with if she got involved in the sex industry? Are there certain facets of it you wouldn't be keen on? Like, if she's going to be an escort, fine, but porn, hell no. What's your overall thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, as a whole, the whole reason why I did what I did, and why I would still strive to do what I'm doing. Like we say, is money motivated. Motivated. I went a bit American then. So it's so my family won't have to do
Right.
those kind of things. So it's not something that I would want my daughter to do at all. But if it was something that she did involve herself in,
What would you say how would you deal with that? With some people would say, well, that's hypocritical, because it's okay for you to do it, and then it's okay for, you know, to say that other women should do it, but why not your daughter? How do you get around that? Because I agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm on the same
of
level.
course.
Like, if other girls want to do it, fine, and you'll do it safely, do it well, fuck
Yeah.
it. It's your life. You know, we've all got fucking bills to pay. But my daughter?
No.
Hell no.
The thing is, the reason why I put myself out there the way that I do, and that I've put myself out there to be so vulnerable so many times, is to give her everything that she wants and everything that she needs. So I would rather do that on her behalf than her ever have to do that. So that's how I can say it. It's not because I'm looking down upon sex workers or anything like that. I absolutely salute every single sex worker out there. But it's just not something, you know, because like you know, not everybody's built for it. It can mess with you mentally. So I just wouldn't want my daughter to take on sort of the mental burden that it can possibly have over you. Do you know what I mean? It's not so much to speak as like, oh no, you know, you know, it's just because I wouldn't want her to have to do that, to feel like you have to do that, because I think sex work's something that you do out of desperation to start with. Definitely, it was something that I did.
So, final question now. Looking back over it all, everything we've discussed, like for all the mad experiences, the fun ones, the times of desperation when it's been fucked up, when it's been great, where you are now, sort of psychologically, your view of yourself, and where you are sort of financially, was it all worth it? Has it all been worth it? Or if there was some switch you could switch that you'd never bothered doing it, and you were just leading a regular life now without all that drama in the past, would you flip the switch?
It's 100% been worth it.
Right.
It's 100% been worth it. Not only for the money and the great times that I had money-wise, and I could do this and I could do that, and I could treat my kids and I could go on holidays. Not just that, but I think you learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself and what you're built for, and you learn a lot about men and relationships and that kind of thing. And you know what, like, I have had hard times with it, and it's been a battle in my own head, but now I've come to the realisation of, like, no, it's not wrong. Like, it's just a different line of work, and it's society that tells us it's wrong, but it's not actually wrong. It's a job, and, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's a fun fucking job, and there's a lot of money to be made. What's so wrong with that?
I think that's a perfect note to end on. Elise,
there we go.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I got tons of soul on my true collectible. Famous, so famous, #1 desirable. I do what I want when I want and how I want it. Leave you with the one in the air. That's how I roll. I got tons of soul on my true collectible.